and I'll share a small snippet. Annette brought in a share of an experience that she had yesterday where she had a nice aha experience. And the experience was that when she is happy in the now, she has her happy ever after. And then we were just talking about the steps around that, and about what's inside here and what's out there, and how we can separate the two, or not how, but we can separate the two to have clarity of where we are. And then to get momentum, it's really useful and beneficial to not have a separation, but a collaboration between the two.
Aligning the two so they match.
There's that aligning again, right?
Yeah.
For the two again, sorry, or how would you? Is there another way you can explain one versus the other?
Which one? Separate which one?
The two that are being aligned.
The inside and the outside.
Yeah. Just like action versus internal experience.
Mm.
What creates action?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Doesn't the internal create the action? Action can't happen without it, can it? Like action takes energy, yeah. And maybe that's part of the capture, is that we do an action and then we look at, oh, how does that make us feel? That's an unresolvable loop. So we say, well, how do I feel? And then I take the action. That's a resolvable loop. That's the difference, in here or out there. And one's like we're aligned to a structure that resolves, rather than aligning to an unresolvable structure. The feeling, how we feel in here, shapes the action, whether we're aware of it or not. It's like the alphabet exists whether we know it or not.
You know what this is reminding me of. I'll share this. So I can remember being in emotional spaces where there was no way in which I could shift that emotion. I was completely trapped in that emotion, and that emotion was immobilizing. And in those times, I had to go to the outside. I had to go outside of myself. There was enough awareness to know that if I went outside, I could get a little bit of a shift from the outside, even though I couldn't find it inside of me in that context or at that point in time, which is one and the same thing. So what I'm thinking about is what Annette was saying, was those little splinter booby traps that we have along the way. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because it got prompted for me in your question about how do you align those two, and that, I guess that's the wiggle, right? Well, I mean, I don't guess, I recognize that that's what the wiggle is about. It's those tiny little movements between inside and outside until you can feel that there is more of an alignment.
I like that.
Okay.
The alignment is opening to the could.
Yeah. Yeah.
What could it be? How could I feel? What could I need?
Which is, opening up for possibilities. And I guess keeping our openness and our willingness to engage with possibilities comes from practicing it over and over and over and over again.
What does alignment feel like?
Sorry, just say that again.
What does alignment feel like? One word.
Flow.
Yeah, I go for momentum.
I think alignment feels like a click when everything aligns all together. It's like there's a click and an aha moment.
Nice. If we had that all the time, right, it would just be normal.
It would feel like nothing.
Mm.
Because if you,
so sorry, Annette, go.
because, or space, like nothing space, because there's no charge, there's no wiggle.
No capture.
Mm-hmm.
No cage. Neutral. Oh, wow. Neutral. That's what I heard.
And infinite.
Space. Neutrally expanding space. Eyelash, what would alignment feel like between the two?
I think of like having dissonant chords and then you get something where you have harmony.
Oh, beautiful.
Nice. Which one dominates?
Well, or I was also thinking about like, my dad always says that the best way to learn an instrument is just to play around on it, like make noise until you start making noises you like. So if you were to take that process and then also think of like Miles Davis's thing of there's no such thing as a wrong note, only I don't remember the quote exactly, but the idea is like you just have to follow with the right note. Like or like you can always make any note the right note depending on what you follow it with, you know?
Mhm.
Which I also like with art, which is why I like more permanent mediums like ink and oil and watercolor over like acrylic where you can cover things up. You know, like if you work with the consequences of what happens and you practice doing that, like it doesn't necessarily um, elicit emotion or communicate experience or story until you get that alignment. You know, it's not that it has to communicate something in particular, like you're saying, which one dominates between a dissonant chord and something that has harmony, like classical, major, minor, whatever. Um, and either of those could be right. Like you could be playing all dissonant chords in a way where you're communicating something through your music.
Mm.
So I think more that makes more sense to me. Also because if you're in the process of learning to follow up what you're playing with something that makes sense, you're going to make mistakes as you're learning, right?
Mm.
And it's also a pretty much as frustrating as trying to learn an instrument by just fooling around on it.
It's a great analogy, Katie.
Yeah, that comes in handy. Music is great. You're always saying everything's vibration too, right? So that's what I was just kind of picturing.
Mhm.
And then it's just music. And it's easier to look at it like through the spiritual and musical lens than the physics lens, because honestly, acoustics are like the most difficult shit that I've ever tried to do with physics. Pardon my French, sorry. Not that there's anything wrong with French.